Have you ever wondered why your most persistent financial worries seem to intensify the moment your head hits the pillow? Why is it that in the quiet darkness of night, when the world around you sleeps, your mind becomes a battleground of mounting bills, unanswered prayers for provision, and that gnawing anxiety about tomorrow's needs? What if I told you that this isn't coincidental? That there's a spiritual dimension to your nighttime financial struggles that most people never recognize. And, more importantly, that tonight could be the very night everything changes for you. You didn't stumble upon this video by chance. There are no accidents in the divine economy of God's kingdom. Right now, in this very moment, you're being positioned for a supernatural intervention in your financial life. Dr. Joseph Murphy understood this profound truth, that the hours between sunset and sunrise represent far more than just physical rest. They constitute a sacred threshold where the spiritual realm becomes extraordinarily active, both for blessing and for spiritual warfare. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Has this ever happened to you? You work tirelessly throughout your days, doing everything humanly possible to improve your financial situation, yet money seems to slip through your fingers like water. You experience moments of breakthrough, only to watch unexpected expenses devour your progress. You lie awake at night, calculating and recalculating, trying to make the numbers work, while fear whispers that you'll never get ahead. If this resonates with you, stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. It might even revolutionize your entire approach to financial breakthrough. The midnight hour has always held special significance in scripture and spiritual practice. It's the hour when the veil between the natural and supernatural realms grows thin. It's when God delivered the Israelites from Egypt. It's when Paul and Silas prayed and sang until prison doors flew open. But it's also the hour when the enemy launches his most calculated attacks against your peace, your faith, and specifically your financial destiny. Most believers never recognize that their sleepless nights filled with financial anxiety aren't just stress. They're strategic spiritual assaults designed to keep them bound in cycles of lack and limitation. Tonight, we're going to confront this invisible warfare head-on. We're going to understand why your financial battles intensify in darkness, and more importantly, we're going to activate a prayer strategy that transforms your sleep from a vulnerable time of worry into a supernatural portal for financial miracles. Because when you understand how to align with God's economy during these sacred hours, when you learn to pray strategically before sleep, something remarkable happens. The very time that once amplified your fears becomes the catalyst for your greatest breakthrough. Think about this for a moment. While your body surrenders to exhaustion and your conscious mind fades into rest, there exists a divine watchman who never closes his eyes. Psalm 121:4 reveals one of the most comforting yet underutilized truths in all of Scripture. He who watches over Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. This isn't poetic language or comforting metaphor. This is a declaration of perpetual divine activity. While you're horizontal, God is vertical. While you're unconscious, He's hyper-conscious of every need, every struggle, every financial gap in your life. Dr. Joseph Murphy taught that our subconscious mind remains extraordinarily receptive during sleep, but what he understood at an even deeper level was that this receptivity creates either a gateway for divine provision or a doorway for demonic suggestion, depending on what we establish before we close our eyes. The hidden truth most believers miss is this: the spiritual realm doesn't operate on our sleep schedule. Demonic forces don't clock out when you lie down. In fact, they intensify their assault precisely because they know you're entering a vulnerable state. your defenses lower, your mental guard drops, your spirit becomes exposed. This is why financial anxiety doesn't just visit you during the day, it ambushes you at night with increased intensity. Those midnight panic attacks about money, those 3 a.m. calculations of bills you can't pay, those dreams where you're running but getting nowhere, working but earning nothing. These aren't random. They're strategic implantations designed to program your subconscious with images of lack, limitation, and defeat. But here's where the transformation begins. Tonight, we're reversing the flow. Tonight, we're closing every portal through which fear has accessed your sleep. Tonight, we're establishing a new pattern where your rest becomes a sanctuary of divine download rather than a battlefield of financial torment. The impact of this shift cannot be overstated. When you understand that God's most powerful work often happens while you sleep, you begin to approach bedtime differently. You stop seeing it as the end of your day and start recognizing it as the beginning of heaven's shift on your behalf. Your sleep becomes a co-creative act with the divine. If you want more content like this that dives deep into financial breakthrough and kingdom economics, subscribe to this channel right now. Don't miss the teachings that could unlock your next level. Now, I want to go even deeper into this revelation, because understanding the mechanics of how spiritual warfare targets your finances at night will completely change how you pray, how you rest, and how you position yourself for breakthrough. Write in the comments, "I'm ready for the shift." What's happening right now in this very moment as you're listening to these words is not ordinary. There's a divine convergence taking place, a meeting point between your desperate need and God's unlimited supply, between your natural circumstances and His supernatural intervention. Dr. Joseph Murphy discovered that the most profound shifts in human consciousness happen not through striving, but through surrender, not through mental effort, but through spiritual alignment. And tonight, as you prepare to enter sleep, God Himself is stepping across the threshold of the natural realm into your specific situation. He's entering your room. He's penetrating your atmosphere. He's positioning Himself strategically within your financial crisis. This isn't abstract theology. This is practical spirituality with tangible results. When the divine presence invades a space, everything that doesn't belong to that frequency must exit. Fear cannot coexist with divine love. Anxiety cannot survive in the atmosphere of perfect peace. Lack cannot maintain its grip where supernatural abundance is being released. The transformation you've been seeking doesn't begin with a new job, a sudden inheritance, or even a brilliant idea. It begins with a shift in the spiritual atmosphere surrounding your life, and that shift is happening right now. But here's the hidden truth that changes everything. You have authority in this moment. You're not a passive recipient waiting helplessly for God to move. You're a co-creator, actively participating in the manifestation of your breakthrough. Through authoritative declaration, not begging, not pleading, but commanding, you break the invisible chains that have held your finances captive. Every cycle of fear that has repeated itself month after month, year after year, has a breaking point. Every voice of anxiety that has whispered defeat into your mind has an off switch. Every burden that has compressed your chest and stolen your sleep has an expiration date, and that date is tonight. Your words carry creative power. When you speak with the authority given to you as a child of God, the spiritual realm responds. This is the journey from victim to victor, from passive sufferer to active declarer. The impact of this mindset shift cannot be measured by conventional metrics because it operates in a dimension beyond the visible. You're not just changing your thoughts, you're rearranging the spiritual furniture of your life. You're evicting unwelcome tenants. You're establishing new boundaries. You're commanding peace where chaos has reigned and summoning clarity where confusion has dominated. Now let me show you exactly how to activate this authority in a way that produces undeniable results. Because understanding your power is one thing, but wielding it effectively is where true transformation occurs. Write in the comments, "I have authority." There's a profound promise embedded in Isaiah 61 that most people read but never truly activate. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Notice the language. It's not passive, it's imperative. You must arise. You must shine. And the reason you can is because light has already arrived. Right now, as you're processing these words, divine illumination is invading every dark corner of your financial life. Those hidden debts you're ashamed to mention. Those secret fears about your future. Those areas where you've given up hope of ever seeing breakthrough. Light is penetrating them all, exposing what needs to be seen and dissolving what needs to disappear. Dr. Joseph Murphy understood that darkness isn't a force. It's merely the absence of light. The moment light enters a room, darkness doesn't fight back. It simply ceases to exist. This is the transformation happening in your finances right now. You don't have to battle the darkness. You don't have to strategize against the lack. You simply need to allow the light to do what light does naturally: illuminate, reveal, and transform. Every hopeless situation in your financial life is only hopeless because it's been operating in darkness, hidden from divine intervention. But once light invades, everything changes. Now here's where the revelation gets even deeper, and this is something most spiritual teachers won't tell you because it requires you to completely shift your mindset about why things happen the way they do. Those delays you've experienced in your financial breakthrough, they weren't bad timing. Those unexpected expenses that appeared the moment you started making progress, they weren't coincidence. Those opportunities that seemed perfect but somehow slipped through your fingers at the last second, they weren't luck running out. These are patterns, and patterns reveal design. Behind the scenes of your visible struggles, there's an invisible intelligence working against your advancement. This is targeted spiritual interference, and once you recognize it, everything about your journey changes. You stop blaming yourself for every setback. You stop questioning God's love every time something goes wrong. You stop internalizing failure as your identity. Instead, you recognize that you're significant enough to be opposed. Your financial breakthrough matters enough in the kingdom economy that dark forces are actively working to prevent it. The impact of this awareness is revolutionary because it shifts you from shame to strategy, from defeat to deliberate spiritual warfare. Understanding the mechanics of how this opposition works gives you unprecedented advantage. And what I'm about to share will completely reframe every financial disappointment you've ever experienced. Write in the comments, "My eyes are open." The Bible uses a specific term that most modern believers gloss over without understanding its full implications: the devourer. In Malachi 3:11, God promises to rebuke the devourer for the sake of his people. This isn't metaphorical language. There is an actual spiritual entity whose assignment is consumption. Its job is to eat away at your resources, to drain your accounts, to create mysterious leaks in your finances where money comes in but somehow never stays. And here's the hidden truth that changes your entire approach to financial breakthrough. This devouring spirit operates most effectively during the hours when you're unconscious. When your spiritual guard is down, when you're vulnerable in sleep. Think about the decisions you've made in states of fear and exhaustion. Think about the mental agreements you've accepted during those late-night worry sessions. I'll never get ahead. Money always leaves me. I'm just not good with finances. These aren't just negative thoughts. They're spiritual contracts you've unknowingly signed, giving the devourer legal access to your resources. Dr. Joseph Murphy taught that the subconscious mind accepts whatever you repeatedly impress upon it. But the spiritual dimension of this truth is even more profound. Every declaration of lack you make before sleep becomes a permission slip for spiritual theft. But tonight marks a transformation in your spiritual defense system. Tonight, you're no longer sleeping exposed to attack. Tonight, you're establishing boundaries that the devourer cannot cross. The impact of this shift will manifest in ways you might not immediately recognize. You'll wake up with clearer thinking about money, you'll make better financial decisions, unexpected expenses will stop appearing with such frequency, and resources will begin to stick rather than slip away. Now here's where the journey gets truly exciting, because understanding what's been stolen is only half the equation. The real revelation is in God's restoration promise. Joel 2:25 isn't offering partial recovery or modest improvement, it's declaring total restoration of everything. The locust has eaten. Every year of financial struggle, every season of lack, every period where you worked hard but saw minimal return, all of it is subject to divine recovery. This isn't about making up for lost time through natural means. This is about supernatural acceleration, where God compresses decades of provision into moments of breakthrough, where He multiplies back what was stolen with interest you never calculated. The mechanics of how this restoration activates in your life will revolutionize everything you thought you knew about receiving from God, and what I'm about to reveal will position you to experience it starting tonight. There's a dimension of financial breakthrough that most people never access because they're trying to solve spiritual problems with natural solutions. Malachi 3:10 contains one of the most powerful promises in Scripture. But notice what comes with it. God doesn't just promise to open windows of heaven and pour out blessing. He specifically promises to rebuke the devourer for your sake. This means divine intervention isn't only about addition, it's also about protection. It's not just about what comes in, but about stopping what's been illegally going out. The transformation happens when you recognize that some of your financial struggles aren't about needing more income. They're about closing the hidden drains that have been siphoning away what you already have. Dr. Joseph Murphy taught that what you accept in consciousness becomes your experience in reality. But here's the hidden truth that takes this principle even deeper. There are agreements operating in your life that you didn't consciously make. Generational cycles of poverty, ancestral patterns of financial sabotage, spiritual contracts signed through words spoken over you, or decisions made by people in your bloodline before you were even born. These hidden thieves have been operating behind the scenes of your financial life, creating cycles that repeat themselves. No matter how hard you work or how smart your decisions become. But tonight, we're bringing everything into the light. Every secret attack is being exposed. Every draining mechanism is being revealed. Every financial blockage is being identified. And here's where your authority becomes absolutely critical. You don't just pray about these things hoping God notices them. You command them to cease. You speak directly to every cycle of stagnation and declare its termination. You address every spirit of delay and revoke its assignment. This isn't presumption. This is operating in the authority that Jesus delegated to believers when He said, "Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven." This channel is all about real spiritual wisdom on money and provision. If that's what you need, hit subscribe so you never miss content that could be the key to your breakthrough. The impact of this confrontation ripples through dimensions you can't see, but will absolutely feel. Money that should have reached you but was diverted will suddenly find its way back. Opportunities that were blocked will mysteriously open. Resources that were being drained through unexplained expenses will begin to accumulate. Your journey from financial struggle to financial freedom isn't just about working harder or being smarter. It's about removing invisible obstacles that have been sabotaging your progress all along. What I'm about to share next will give you the exact framework for dismantling these barriers permanently, establishing a new spiritual ecosystem around your finances where thieves have no access and devourers have no authority. Imagine for a moment that you could suddenly see every financial transaction that's happened in your life through spiritual lenses, not just the visible ones in your bank account, but the invisible exchanges happening in realms you can't perceive with natural eyes. Every time you've worked and not been properly compensated, every time an opportunity was diverted to someone else, every time resources meant for you were intercepted before they arrived. These aren't just unfortunate circumstances, they're demonic transactions, unauthorized withdrawals from your divine account, spiritual embezzlement that's been happening while you weren't watching. But here's the transformation that's taking place right now. Heaven is sending light into every one of these dark corners. Divine illumination doesn't just expose what's wrong, it initiates the correction process. Dr. Joseph Murphy taught that light and darkness cannot occupy the same space simultaneously, and this spiritual principle is manifesting in your financial realm tonight. Every spiritual parasite that's been feeding off your income, every invisible entity that's been siphoning your resources, every dark agreement that's been operating behind the scenes, all of it is being revealed under heaven's spotlight. And what light exposes, God's authority dismantles. The impact of this revelation goes beyond mere awareness. This is where restoration shifts from concept to experience, from promise to manifestation. What was stolen from you isn't just being acknowledged, it's being actively returned. What was delayed in your journey isn't just getting back on schedule, it's being supernaturally accelerated. What was blocked by invisible barriers isn't just being unobstructed, it's being released with momentum. And here's where the mathematics of heaven defy natural logic. What was lost isn't coming back in its original amount. It's returning multiplied, expanded, increased beyond what was taken. This is the hidden truth about divine restoration that religious mindsets miss. God doesn't just make you whole, He makes you overflow. He doesn't merely replace what the enemy stole, He adds interest, compounds the return, multiplies the recovery. Your decisions from this moment forward aren't being made from lack trying to reach enough. They're being made from supernatural abundance that's already been released and is actively pursuing you. The journey you've been on, with all its struggles and setbacks, hasn't been wasted. It's been positioning you for a comeback so profound that your story will become someone else's hope. Now let me show you how to align your sleep, your subconscious mind, and your spiritual atmosphere tonight, so that this restoration accelerates while you rest. Because the mechanics of receiving while sleeping will revolutionize how you approach bedtime forever. Your bedroom is far more than furniture and walls. It's a spiritual ecosystem, an energetic environment that either facilitates divine encounter or harbors residual warfare from your day. Most people never consider that the space where they sleep has accumulated spiritual debris, anxiety from financial worries, fear from difficult conversations, stress from work pressures, doubt from unanswered prayers. All of this creates an atmospheric density that affects the quality of your rest and, more importantly, determines what has access to your subconscious mind while you sleep. Dr. Joseph Murphy understood that the last thoughts you entertain before sleep impress themselves deeply into your subconscious. But the hidden truth goes even further. The spiritual atmosphere of your room determines what can influence those thoughts. Think about how you feel when you walk into certain spaces. Some rooms feel heavy, oppressive, uncomfortable. Others feel light, peaceful, welcoming. This isn't psychological projection. It's spiritual discernment detecting the invisible atmosphere of a place. Your bedroom might be physically clean, but spiritually contaminated. Every argument, every worry session, every fearful thought, every anxious prayer spoken in desperation has left an imprint in that space. And unless you intentionally cleanse and reset the atmosphere, You're trying to receive heavenly downloads in an environment still hosting yesterday's demons. Tonight marks a transformation in how you approach your sleeping space. We're not just tidying up, we're performing a spiritual reset. In the authority of Jesus, every corner of your room is being purified, every wall is being cleansed, every doorway is being sealed against unauthorized entry. This isn't ritual or superstition. This is establishing spiritual boundaries based on the authority Christ delegated to believers. When you declare a space holy, set apart, consecrated for divine purposes, the spiritual realm responds. Angels position themselves. Demonic entities lose their legal access. The atmosphere shifts from battleground to sanctuary. The impact of this atmospheric shift will be immediately evident. You'll notice falling asleep becomes easier. Your dreams will change in quality and content. You'll wake up more refreshed because your sleep wasn't interrupted by spiritual warfare. Your decisions the next day will be clearer because your subconscious processed truth instead of fear during the night. This journey from restless nights to restorative sleep isn't about better mattresses or relaxation techniques. It's about creating a spiritual environment where heaven can work unhindered while your body rests. What I'm about to share will activate a level of protection around your sleep that most believers never experience, establishing your bedroom as a place where miracles are downloaded and breakthroughs are birthed. There's a principle in spiritual warfare that most believers don't understand. Repetition in declaration isn't about convincing God to listen. It's about establishing legal authority in multiple dimensions. When you seal yourself in the presence of God once, you're making a statement. When you declare it twice, you're reinforcing the boundary. But when you speak it 3 times, you're activating a supernatural protocol that causes the entire atmosphere to shift, angels to snap to attention, and heaven itself to officially recognize your claim. Dr. Joseph Murphy taught about the power of repetition in programming the subconscious mind, but this goes beyond psychology. This is spiritual legislation. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, you're not just hoping for God's presence. You're deliberately, intentionally, authoritatively sealing yourself within it. Think of it as creating an impenetrable bubble of divine atmosphere around your entire being. The first declaration establishes the perimeter. The second declaration strengthens the seal. The third declaration activates heaven's response system. And here's the hidden truth that changes everything. The moment you complete this triple sealing, you're no longer operating in ordinary space. You've created a dimensional pocket where natural laws submit to supernatural authority, where demonic interference has no jurisdiction, where divine provision flows unhindered. But you're not alone in this sealed space. The transformation happening right now involves an angelic deployment specifically assigned to different areas of your life. Angels of peace are entering your room, displacing every spirit of anxiety and turmoil. Angels of protection are taking strategic positions at every doorway, ensuring that nothing unauthorized can cross the threshold while you sleep. Angels of provision are positioning themselves around your finances, not just guarding what you have, but actively retrieving what belongs to you and escorting new resources into your life. And angels of breakthrough are encamping around your bed, working through the night to dismantle every obstacle that's been blocking your advancement. This isn't symbolic language or comforting imagery. Hebrews 1:14 explicitly states that angels are ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation. They're on assignment. They have specific functions, and your declarations activate their missions. The impact of understanding this reality revolutionizes your entire approach to sleep because you're not resting alone and undefended. You're sleeping surrounded by an invisible army working on your behalf while your conscious mind is offline. The journey from struggling believer to spiritually fortified overcomer happens when you grasp this hidden dimension of support that's been available all along, but never activated through intentional declaration. Your mind is the final frontier in this transformation, and it's where most financial battles are ultimately won or lost. Before your body can truly rest, your thoughts must be brought into submission. Dr. Joseph Murphy discovered that the last hour before sleep is the most impressionable time for your subconscious mind. Whatever dominates your thinking during this window gets deeply embedded and works on you throughout the night. But here's the hidden truth that most people miss. You don't have to passively accept whatever thoughts show up. You have authority to still the anxious ones, to silence the fearful imaginations, to deliberately lift off every emotional weight that's been pressing down on your chest. Think about what typically happens when you lie down. Your mind suddenly becomes hyperactive, replaying every financial worry, rehearsing worst-case scenarios, calculating problems you can't solve in that moment. This isn't random mental activity, it's a strategic assault designed to program your subconscious with defeat before you enter sleep. But tonight, we're interrupting that pattern. Right now, God's peace is washing over your mind like warm oil, not aggressively forcing thoughts out, but gently dissolving their power, smoothing away the rough edges of anxiety, coating every worried place with supernatural calm. The impact of this mental reset cannot be overstated, because when your mind enters rest in peace rather than panic, your entire sleep cycle becomes a healing journey instead of a continuation of daily warfare. Your sleep itself is being transformed tonight from something you dread into something you anticipate. Your dreams are no longer vulnerable to demonic infiltration. They're protected, sealed, reserved for divine communication. Your spirit, which has been depleted by constant financial stress and spiritual battle, is being restored while you rest. Your body, which has carried the physical manifestation of emotional and spiritual burden, is finally safe to release the tension it's been holding. This is the shift from your bed being a battleground where you toss and turn in anxiety to becoming a sanctuary where heaven meets you, ministers to you, and downloads breakthrough into your spirit. The decisions you make tomorrow will be influenced by what happens in your sleep tonight, and understanding how to position yourself for divine downloads rather than demonic nightmares will give you an unfair advantage in every area of life. While your conscious mind shuts down for the night, your financial life doesn't stop needing protection. In fact, this is when it's most vulnerable. Dr. Joseph Murphy understood that the subconscious mind continues working through the night, but what he also recognized was that this same principle operates in the spiritual realm. Battles don't pause just because you're sleeping. The enemy knows that when you're unconscious, you can't actively defend what's yours. But here's the transformation happening right now. Even as you prepare to rest, a supernatural covering is being placed over every financial stream connected to your life. Your income sources are being shielded from attack. Your opportunities are being secured against sabotage. Resources that are already in motion toward you are being escorted by angelic protection, ensuring they arrive without interference. This isn't passive hope. This is active spiritual insurance. While you sleep, heaven is working overtime on your behalf. Your financial miracle isn't waiting for you to wake up and start praying again. It's already in motion right now, moving through dimensions you can't see, rearranging circumstances behind the scenes, positioning the right people in the right places, opening doors you didn't even know existed. The impact of understanding this truth changes everything about how you approach sleep. You're not checking out and leaving your finances undefended. You're entrusting them to a God who neither slumbers nor sleeps, who continues guarding what concerns you even when you can't. But here's where the revelation goes even deeper, and this is something that will completely reframe your understanding of why financial struggle has been so persistent in your life. Some of the battles you're fighting didn't actually originate with you. They didn't begin with a bad decision you made, an opportunity you missed, or even a season of poor judgment. They started generations before you were born, woven into your bloodline as patterns that repeat themselves with eerie consistency. Your grandfather struggled with debt, and so do you. Your parents experienced cycles of almost breakthrough followed by sudden setback, and you're living the same story. Money came into your family but never stayed, and you're watching the identical pattern play out in your own finances. These aren't coincidences. This is generational programming, spiritual inheritance that gets passed down through bloodlines just as surely as genetic traits. The hidden truth is that unless these patterns are identified and deliberately broken, they continue recycling through family lines, creating the illusion that financial struggle is just your destiny, your family's curse, an unavoidable reality. But tonight, we're exposing these invisible chains so you can finally break free from cycles you never chose but have been living under nonetheless. Have you ever looked at your family history and noticed the same financial patterns repeating across generations? It's not just bad luck. It's not just poor money management skills being passed down. There's something far more insidious at work. Ancestral blueprints that operate like invisible software running in the background of your family's financial operating system. Your great-grandparents worked themselves to exhaustion but died with almost nothing. Your grandparents had moments where breakthrough seemed imminent, only to watch it slip away at the last second. Your parents experienced seasons of increase, followed immediately by unexpected crises that consumed everything they'd gained. And now you're living out the same script, wondering why hard work doesn't translate to lasting prosperity in your life the way it seems to for others. Dr. Joseph Murphy recognized that deeply embedded beliefs create consistent results, but the spiritual dimension reveals something even more profound. These aren't just beliefs you adopted. These are spiritual contracts signed by ancestors, curses spoken over your family line, demonic assignments that have legal access to your bloodline because of decisions or agreements made generations ago. The impact of recognizing this truth is revolutionary because it means you're not fighting a personal battle. You're confronting an inherited war, and inherited problems require a different level of authority to break. This is where most teaching on financial breakthrough falls tragically short. People tell you to work harder, budget better, develop better habits. And while those things have value, they don't address the root issue. You can change your behavior, but if you don't break the spiritual patterns, you'll keep hitting the same ceiling, experiencing the same frustrations, watching the same cycles repeat themselves despite your best efforts. Tonight, we're going beyond surface solutions. We're accessing the courtroom of heaven itself, the place where legal spiritual transactions are adjudicated, where ancestral contracts can be nullified, where bloodlines can be officially rewritten. Picture yourself standing in this courtroom right now. God himself is the judge. You're not coming as a defendant hoping to avoid punishment. You're coming as a redeemed child, presenting evidence that demands the cancellation of illegal spiritual agreements affecting your family. The blood of Jesus is your legal proof. His sacrifice on the cross didn't just forgive your sins, it broke every curse, dissolved every ancestral contract, and legally severed your connection to generational bondage. The hidden truth is that this freedom has already been purchased. The verdict has already been rendered in your favor, but you have to present your case, make your declaration, and claim what's legally yours. The mechanics of how this courtroom functions and how your declarations tonight will rewrite your entire family's financial future is something most believers never discover. But what I'm about to reveal will give you the exact framework for permanent liberation. There's a legal transaction that happened 2,000 years ago that most believers acknowledge but never fully activate in their lives. Galatians 3:13 isn't offering a theological concept. It's declaring a completed legal act. Christ has redeemed us from the curse, not will redeem. Not might redeem if we're good enough. Has redeemed. Past tense. Finished transaction. The word redeemed in this context comes from the marketplace. It means to purchase back, to buy out of slavery, to pay the price that legally transfers ownership. When Jesus died on that cross, he wasn't just taking on your impersonal sins. He was breaking every curse that had legal claim on your bloodline, purchasing your freedom from ancestral bondage and severing the spiritual chains that connected you to generational patterns of defeat. But here's the hidden truth that changes everything. Legal freedom and experiential freedom are not the same thing. You can be legally free while still living in practical bondage because you've never claimed what's yours. Think about it. If someone paid off your mortgage but you